Sometimes a name comes along that checks every single box a real contender could possibly want. Genuinely young, genuinely two-way, genuinely cost-controlled, and it still somehow ends up sitting right there on the trade market anyway. Tonight on the show, I have to tell you about exactly that kind of situation, because Trey Murphy III's name has genuinely become one of the most talked about trade candidates in all of basketball, and one team that has been directly connected to him, according to real, credible reporting, is the Golden State Warriors. So stay with me, Warriors fans, because adding this kind of genuinely ready-made two-way wing to pair with Stephen Curry is exactly the kind of move that could give this entire dynasty one more real legitimate shot. Here's exactly what's being reported right now, cutting right through all the noise. According to sources, the Golden State Warriors have genuinely discussed real trade concepts involving Trey Murphy with the Pelicans front office, and league insiders have specifically named the Warriors among the teams most seriously in the mix, right alongside teams like the Celtics and the Pistons. New Orleans' asking price has reportedly softened from the equivalent of a full 4 first-round picks down to closer to 3, and the Warriors are specifically described as a team that has long, genuinely coveted Murphy's exact skill set, Trey Murphy III, in a Warriors uniform, lined up right next to Stephen Curry. Read that line again, slowly, because if you truly understand just how rare a young two-way wing like this really is on the open market, and you understand exactly what this Warriors roster has been missing for years now, you understand precisely why this could be one of the most significant moves of the entire offseason. And I am here to walk you through, step by step, exactly why a player this good might genuinely be available right now, because it's a genuinely fascinating situation developing in real time before our eyes. Now, I already know exactly what some of you are going to bring up right away, the draft capital cost and whether the Warriors even have enough real assets to offer, and we are going to get to every single bit of it, I promise, because I always give you the honest version. But stay with me through this one, because pairing a young, genuinely two-way wing like Trey Murphy with Stephen Curry is exactly the kind of move that extends a real championship window. Let me start with why Trey Murphy is even in this conversation, because it's a genuinely fascinating situation. The New Orleans Pelicans finished this past season with a genuinely brutal 26-56 record, one of the very worst marks anywhere in the entire league, and a roster full of expensive, talented pieces that simply hasn't translated into any real winning. Reporting indicates the Pelicans have fielded real, legitimate trade interest in Murphy from a growing list of teams around the league, and while New Orleans initially set an extremely high asking price, the equivalent of a full 4 first-round picks, that price has reportedly softened to closer to 3 first-rounders as the summer has gone along. Multiple credible, well-connected reporters have described Murphy as one of the single most coveted trade candidates anywhere in the entire league right now, with teams genuinely lining up to inquire about his availability. That right there is the crack in the door, and it is genuinely actively open. And let me underline just how real this new era of player movement is, because it's the whole foundation here. Think about what we have already witnessed in this offseason alone. A 2-time MVP was traded in one of the biggest blockbusters in recent NBA history. An all-star wing was dealt in a separate franchise-altering trade of his own. A former finals MVP was moved in yet another blockbuster. Across the league, the players everyone assumed were untouchable have changed teams one after another. The old certainties are simply dead. And in Trey Murphy's specific case, you have a rebuilding franchise with a softening asking price, a genuinely desperate need to reset the roster, and a growing list of contenders calling to check in. The door is open, the market is real, and the only question is which team ends up meeting that price. So now let me tell you exactly who Trey Murphy III is, in case anyone needs the reminder, because this is the part that should get you right up and out of your seat. Trey Murphy III is one of the most complete, genuinely ascending two-way wings anywhere in the entire NBA. He just led the New Orleans Pelicans in scoring, averaging 21.5 points a game to go with 5.7 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 1.5 steals, all while shooting an efficient 47% from the field and just under 38% from 3. He's a genuinely true 3-and-D wing who can defend multiple positions on any given night, space the floor at a truly elite level, and has developed real legitimate shot creation on top of all of that. He's still only 25 years old, which means he's entering the absolute prime years of his career, and he's on a genuinely team-friendly contract relative to his production. 4 years and $112 million total, a number that looks like an absolute bargain given exactly how he's been playing right now. Acquiring a player like this isn't just adding a piece, it's adding one of the most coveted, ready-made two-way wings on the entire trade market. And let me put his resume in proper context because it tells you why this is such a fascinating story. A team's leading scorer at just 25 years old, an elite three-point shooter who can also create his own shot, a legitimate multi-positional defender. Players with this exact combination, real youth, genuine two-way skill, and team-friendly money all at once, are the single most sought-after assets anywhere in the entire league. Exactly the kind of player nearly every single contender would love to add if given the real chance. That's exactly why his name has become one of the most talked about trade candidates of the entire offseason, with reporting indicating a genuine wave of interest from around the league. So now let's talk about why this fits the Warriors so perfectly, because it addresses a real, persistent need this roster has had for years. But first, let me make sure you really truly appreciate how rare a player like this actually is, because it's the whole entire point of the story. In today's NBA, the hardest thing in the world to find is a young two-way wing who can shoot at an elite level, defend multiple positions, and still create his own offense when the play breaks down, all on a contract that isn't going to strangle your cap sheet for years to come. Most wings anywhere in the league with this level of production are either already extension eligible for genuine max money or still on their rookie deal without a fully proven track record yet. Trey Murphy has both the proven production and the team-friendly money at just 25 years old. Think about how genuinely few players in the entire league combine that exact specific mix of age, two-way skill, and real contract value all at once. That's precisely why so many different teams, spanning both conferences of the entire league, have already been genuinely connected to him this offseason. Here's the exact situation in Golden State right now. We are in the absolute final act of one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history, and the Warriors have been genuinely searching for a real third scoring option, a young, two-way wing who can space the floor around Curry, create his own shot when needed, and defend the other team's best perimeter player on any given night. Trey Murphy III is exactly that kind of player, and it's not particularly close. Just imagine Curry drawing two defenders on the perimeter while Murphy spots up for an open three or attacks a closeout and gets all the way to the rim. Just imagine a Warriors defense that finally has a young, athletic wing who can switch onto multiple positions and hold up on the perimeter deep into a playoff series. That's not just an improvement, that's exactly the kind of complementary two-way piece that could extend Curry's championship window by years, not months. And let me put this in the context of what the Warriors are actually chasing, because it raises the stakes. This is a franchise that measures itself strictly in championships, not fun regular seasons, and every single year that passes without a real shot at one more title is a year the front office simply cannot get back. A young, genuinely ready-made two-way wing becoming available, on a team-friendly contract no less, is exactly the kind of real opportunity that simply doesn't come around very often in this league. Passing on a chance to explore this would be exactly the kind of missed opportunity a front office with the Warriors' standards cannot afford to let slip by. So now let's talk about how this would actually work in practice, because the mechanics matter here. New Orleans has reportedly softened its asking price to somewhere around 3 first-round picks, down from an original ask of 4, and the Warriors would need to construct a real, genuine package, likely centered on draft capital and possibly a young player, to actually get a deal done. That's a real, genuinely significant price to pay, no question about it whatsoever. But the Warriors have shown time and time again over the years that they will get genuinely aggressive when they truly believe their championship window is still open. And let me put the on-court fit into even sharper terms, because in a playoff series it's everything. Stephen Curry is going to draw 2 defenders no matter what, but the Warriors have not always had a reliable third option who could punish a defense for overhelping on Curry. Murphy solves exactly that. He shot nearly 38% from deep on real, genuine volume. He can put the ball on the floor and finish through real contact at the rim. And defensively, he's long and switchable enough to guard multiple positions without ever really being a liability out there. That's a real, genuinely complete two-way skill set on display, not just a one-dimensional specialist who only does one single thing well. And let me put this in the context of what's actually at stake, because it raises the urgency. This is a franchise that has already won 4 championships with this exact core, but the calendar doesn't lie, and every year that passes without a real shot at one more title is a year the front office cannot get back. Adding a young two-way wing on a team-friendly deal is exactly the kind of forward-thinking swing a front office makes when it understands the clock is running out. But I told you I'd be honest, so let's take the doubts head on, because on this one, they are very real. The first and biggest objection is whether the Warriors even have 3 first-round picks readily available to offer, since their draft capital situation has been a persistent question for years. That's a real serious concern, and I won't pretend otherwise. The counter is that the Warriors have shown creativity before in constructing packages, and New Orleans' softening price suggests real flexibility on structure. The second objection is the fit and the timeline, since Golden State's championship window is arguably already closing, and building chemistry with a new piece takes time. Fair, but a player this good instantly makes any roster around him more dangerous, timeline concerns or not. The third objection is whether New Orleans would even prioritize a deal with a direct win-now contender over a longer rebuild package. Fair question, but desperate teams sometimes prioritize the best offer over the cleanest timeline fit, especially the further this offseason goes without a resolution. Let me also address the timing question directly, because it actually works in the Warriors' favor here. Unlike a lot of trade candidates who only become genuinely available right before a hard deadline, forcing a rushed, panicked decision, Trey Murphy's situation has been building for months now, giving real suitors actual time to construct the right package instead of scrambling at the last minute. That's exactly the kind of drawn-out negotiation where a persistent, genuinely motivated front office can eventually find a real structure that works for both sides involved, even if the price looks steep on day one of the conversation. So let me tell you where my head is at, and then I've got one final thought that I think is the real key to all of this. If the Warriors pull this off, they add a genuine, ready-made two-way wing in his absolute prime to a roster still led by the greatest shooter who ever lived, giving this dynasty a real shot at one more championship chapter. Just picture it for a second. Curry spacing the entire floor with his gravity. Trey Murphy attacking hard closeouts and locking down the perimeter on the defensive end. A Warriors team that suddenly looks genuinely dangerous again. Whether it's actually realistic comes down to the draft capital in hand and the real price attached, and that's the real honest debate here. But the ceiling of this move is genuinely exciting, and for a franchise that owes Curry everything, that's a swing worth taking. And here's the thought I want to leave you with, the part almost nobody is connecting. A young, genuinely two-way wing this good, on a contract this team-friendly, becoming a real, genuine trade candidate is one of the single rarest opportunities in all of basketball. New Orleans' asking price has already been softening by the week, and the list of teams calling in with real interest keeps growing longer. The Warriors, with a rapidly closing championship window and a real persistent need at this exact position on the roster, are exactly the kind of team that should be sprinting to get a real deal done. So let me boil it all the way down for you, because I want this crystal clear. A dynasty in its absolute final act, still led by the greatest shooter the game has ever seen, in need of exactly the kind of young two-way wing Trey Murphy provides. A rebuilding Pelicans team with a softening asking price and a growing list of suitors. The honest obstacle is the draft capital costs. 3 first-round picks is a real price. But how many times have the Warriors wished a young, cost-controlled two-way wing would fall into their lap? This might genuinely be that chance. So let me boil it all the way down for you, because I want this crystal clear one more time. A dynasty in its absolute final act, still led by the greatest shooter the game has ever seen, in genuine need of exactly the kind of young, two-way, cost-controlled wing Trey Murphy provides. A rebuilding Pelicans team, fresh off a 26-win season, with a softening asking price and a growing list of suitors calling. The honest obstacle is the draft capital. 3 first-round picks is a real, substantial price to pay. But how many times over the years have the Warriors wished a young, ready-made two-way wing would simply fall into their lap? This might genuinely be that rare chance. I'm not telling you it's signed. I have no reporting that says the ink is dry, and I am never going to make something up for you, because the only reason you keep coming back to me is that I shoot you straight, even when the honest version includes real concerns about the draft capital cost and whether the Warriors can actually meet New Orleans' price. Those concerns are real. But I am telling you, the talent is genuine. The fit next to Curry is fascinating, and a young two-way wing this good on this team-friendly a contract is one of the rarest assets there is.